going to push this up. Hi. Hi, Aida. So nice
Hello.
to have you today and to visit with you a little bit about a concern that you may have or something specific you'd like to talk about. And anyway,
So I'd like to address some of the problems that older people have when they want to go to the mission field and when they're able to go, and because usually that's the last time they'll be able to fulfill that desire in their heart. So that's what I'd like to talk about.
yeah, about age and missions
And how it affects everything around you,
okay.
which you didn't think that it would do.
Yes. Can you kind of give me an idea of some of the things that you experienced as an older person starting out in the missions work?
Well, I was 69, and my husband was the same age, and we got into a class of 30, and we were the only senior citizens in it. Mostly they were 21 or to 30. And when there were assignments to be given out for us to do some field work, I wasn't, neither my husband and I were included in that. They thought we were not able to do that. One in particular was at the Dream Center, which we have in our church, where we built a building for underprivileged people to learn computer skills and big basketball court and food, you know, just to have food and clothing distributed to them. And someone was supposed to, I had worked in there 2 years already, and I wasn't working there at that moment, but someone was to go up and film that. And they chose someone that went up there. And when she came back, it was the worst film that I ever saw. It told nothing about the Dream Center. And we were going to be graded on it because we had a group of 5 people. And that was what we were going to present. So it was the worst thing. And I asked the leader why she hadn't sent me and my husband up, because we had already been there for 2 years and we knew everything that was going on, and she didn't give me an answer. So I let her know in no uncertain terms that we were able to do anything that they could do. But then she didn't take it very well.
So do you feel like that kind of affected your training that you went, because you attended the mission school, so do you feel that that kind of somewhat affected your training that you went to go and get at the school, or do you still?
No, if you're a real missionary at heart, you're hard. You know how to take hardship, and you keep going. So I knew that probably this person would not really be good in the mission field. But I didn't say anything, because the first challenge she met, she wasn't doing very well. She fell apart when I talked to her. So instead of us discussing it and bringing that out about age, so she tried to hide. So no, we had another thing, and where we had to get, when you procure things, we had to get a lot of, see what we could get so we could help us to get to the mission field.
Yes.
And we have to be able to approach people and ask for money. So we won that contest.
Oh.
And we got a lot of prizes. We got a dinner. We got a lot of things. And they were, that gal that was in that, she was in our group, they didn't do very well.
Yeah.
But
so do you,
it was a good experience.
okay. So I'm taking it though that you felt. How did it make you feel though when you were being treated differently as an older person versus the younger people?
Well, I was already a Christian. Over 30 years. So the Lord had already worked out some things in my life where if I was confronted with negative stuff, it just was water off a duck's back.
Well, good. So you felt you felt ready to go on the mission field after you went to mission school, and or did you learn some things after you went to the mission field that you could have learned while you were in school? Was that the year training or the 3 months that you were?
No, it was a year.
A year. So
A year.
going back to that
And
question.
Terry Henshaw
Yeah.
was
Yes.
in charge, and he's a very able person.
Right. So, but you felt like, so when you went out into the mission field, was there something you could have learned in mission school that you needed when you were on the field? Is there something that comes to mind?
Yes. Unless you practice something, you're not going to know it. I learned everything in the books. And I would look over my notes before I started on a mission trip. But I didn't learn how to get money. I just didn't have enough faith for the amount of money that I had to do on my first mission trip, because I couldn't get a diploma unless I went on one mission trip with the
group.
With this group.
Yes.
And it was $3,150. And I had never had to believe for that amount of money. But it did, and getting that trained me to depend on the Lord more. You can't learn that in school.
No. What about the cross-cultural communications? Do you feel like you were prepared for that when you went on the mission field?
Well, I chose a country, the Dominican Republic, because they spoke Spanish and I speak Spanish, and they're next to Puerto Rico, where my people were from, and we ate almost the same food, so I was comfortable.
Right. Yes.
So I didn't have, also I grew up in a Spanish home, and they had exactly the same, even though this is 2006 at the time, their customs were the same as when I grew up in a Spanish home.
Oh,
They, you have to respect your parents. When you date, the man has to come to the home. You cannot backtalk your mother and father.
In Spanish homes?
Yes.
Yes,
and you must be subjected to their rules. And
Yes.
they did that very well in those homes. Everybody did the same thing.
Now, on your first trip to what was your first trip?
It was to let's see. It was, I thought it was the Dominican Republic.
Okay.
It was the Dominican Republic.
Now, so up until that time, when was the last time you had traveled to a Spanish country? Was that the first time you had traveled to a Spanish country?
No, I had returned
Spanish-speaking.
where I was born.
Uh-huh.
Where my people were from, to visit them. Before that, Puerto Rico, maybe 7 or 8 times.
Okay.
I noticed the customs were still the same.
Same. So there weren't a lot of differences when you went to the DR, to the Dominican Republic, then. Well, the reason I'm asking that question is I hear so many times when people go back to their own countries after they've been gone a long time or out of their culture, and they go back to their culture after several years or many years, there's a lot of differences, and it tends to give them some different mixed emotions.
Well, I had a good contact person there.
Uh-huh.
And when I was about to do or say something wrong, she would cue me in before I went to speak or where we were going.
Okay.
If she suspected that I might go off and be too American in that area, I could not. I had to stop.
Oh, I know.
Actually, I had to stop being an American, and I had to
That's good.
go back to where I was when I was born and act like I was in my mother and father's house.
Yeah. Yes. Uh-huh. Okay. Well. Okay. Very good. So how many weeks did you go to the mission field at a time?
The most I went was 12 days.
12 days.
The anointing would come off if I tried to go. On that 13-day trip, I felt I didn't belong there after like 10 days.
Okay. Isn't that interesting?
I just desired to go home.
And then how would you feel when you'd come home after you would see all these needs and you'd come back to the States? How did you feel?
Well, I realized how blessed we were in America. The simplest things, like having a choice of what to eat. They never had choices. They ate what was available. So I began every time that while I was working in the mission fields, since I've retired from it for a year, I would always be reminded during that time that when I would say, what do I feel like eating today? And then I'd satisfy that need. And so that was the adjustment that, I didn't feel sorry for them. They were very comfortable with that. I didn't tell them that I eat whatever I want.
Right.
And so about the needs of their clothing and all that, I think the Dominican Republic has enough financial, that they have abilities to get what they want. They don't have any charitable organizations that take care of the poor people that I could see. And nobody gave anybody food or clothing that lived there. So they just ate their regular rice and beans
Oh,
and,
wow.
and if they could find meat or fish to go with it, and then they would wear the same clothing all the time, and they were happy.
So when you would come back to the States, you just would feel how blessed you are, but about how would you feel about the people that you left behind? So I'm
I
sure
didn't
you
feel
made some
too
good.
bad.
Okay, I'm sure you made some good relationships while you were there.
I still have relations. I've been gone a year, and they said, "You come down here, and you don't have to do any mission work. Just
come
come
and visit."
down
Okay.
and visit because we want to see you again."
Yes, but as you know, the Dominican Republic is kind of in question about all
Yeah.
the problems. We may have to take a break and come back for another 15 minutes because I don't know how good this will transfer. So we'll come back for 15 more minutes. Okay.